Welcome to today's talk. We're doing a webinar all about the Therefore connector for Business Central, which is Microsoft's premier ERP solution. My name is Jennifer Schmitt, and I'm a member of Therefore's digital engagement team, and I am so pleased to be joined today by Mark Eost, our business developer for the UK and Ireland. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. For some of you, I already know you. For many on this call, it's probably the first time you've encountered me. And as Jennifer says, I'm the Business Development Manager for UK and Ireland.
Great. So most of you are on the call, have already attended many of our webinars, but in case you haven't, I cannot see or hear you. But if you do have a question, I do want to hear from you. And if you have a question, we are very pleased that we also have Clemens on the call too, who is our developer, who was greatly responsible for creating this integration. So if you have any kinds of questions, whether it be a sales question for Mark or a technical question for Clemens, we are here to answer your questions and unveil the mystery of the connector, so to speak. So please don't be shy, ask your questions, and we will do our very best to answer them. So our agenda today is I first have a couple of announcements I would like to make, followed by a brief overview of what is Business Central. We're very aware that many of you on the call might have never used Business Central yourselves. You're not in the accounting department. So we want to make sure that this entire webinar is very accessible and easy to understand for people of all profiles and backgrounds. So we'll go over the history of Business Central, Dynamics Nav, the technical requirements, the connector's functions, a demo, and then information for resellers. So what is it that you need to know if you're talking to customers? So likewise, if you're a customer yourself, what are considerations that you can have for yourself if deciding if the connector is right for you? So before we go on to the bulk of our content today, let's quickly go through the announcements. First announcement is that we recently launched a new version of Therefore, which is Therefore 2024, also known as version 31. All Therefore online servers are now updated, yay, which means that if you or your customers are using Therefore Online, you are now able to start installing and configuring the latest features. It's available now. Likewise, if you're using Therefore on premises, setup files are available for download, and so you can update your server at any time. We also have a refresher training available for Therefore 2024. It's a free course on our e-learning available for anyone with an extranet account. We also have launched sales training. So if you are a Canon or a Canon partner, go ahead and check out the sales training. I know so many of you, especially from the UK, have been doing an excellent job with the sales training. I am just amazed and so proud to see so many people completing the training. So if you haven't gone through it yet, check it out now. It's a great opportunity just to see how we would sell Therefore, but you also get to see me and Mark together in the same room doing a little role play. So it's a lot of fun, and yeah, you can see us from a different side in the sales training. And finally, we also have end user training, which are little 1 to 2 minute videos showing how to use the most common user applications in Therefore free of charge on our homepage. It is available in English, German, French, and I just finished editing the Spanish. Sí, ya el español está listo muy pronto. So in a few days, I think it should be on the website as well. So ya está. Español estará listo en muy poco tiempo. So there you go, that's my Spanish for you. But it's exciting to see that we have so many languages available, and hopefully your customers or you yourself will get a good benefit out of that. All right, so that concludes my announcements. I'm going to hand it off now to Mark to talk about the basics of Business Central and some of the benefits of connector.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, so we know that we have a wide range of different job roles on the call. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody understands what Business Central is. So it is an enterprise resource planning application, often referred to as an ERP solution for small to medium-sized businesses, and it sits under the Dynamics Nav 365 umbrella. And we have a completely new connector for this version of Business Central because it supersedes what was there previously. So Business Central, as I say, is part of this larger umbrella offering from Microsoft, and it focuses on the finance and accounting process, and it really has superseded the previous versions, and it's now web-based, meaning that the software and the connector have had to be totally rebuilt from scratch. If we have a look at the history, we can see that Dynamics Nav entered the market a very long time ago and is extremely popular. It's first entered the market in 1994 under the name Navision, and then it was renamed in 2005 to Dynamics Nav, and then renamed again in 2018 to Business Central. So you can see that it's got a really long history of being available from Microsoft. And it's you'll hear it often referred to as Dynamics Nav in the marketplace because customers often are confused about the different versions. But now you can see the history of the application. Hopefully it will make it easier for you to understand our upgrade policy. So the way that we are operating with this particular connector is that if the customer has the older connector for Dynamics Nav and they upgrade their ERP system to Business Central, then they can upgrade their therefore connector free of charge as long as they have a valid software support and maintenance agreement. So although the connector is technically new, it still consumes the same license point, which is why we've made the decision to offer that upgrade at no extra cost to the customer. So the connector works in both therefore online and therefore on premises, but of course the customer needs to have a Business Central subscription or application in the first place. And the customer needs to be aware of that when the connector operates, it briefly consumes a therefore license point when it's sending and receiving data. So the thing for you to consider is that probably a concurrent license point, concurrent license would be a really great way of dealing with this so that the license is available when the application calls upon it. Now, that concludes the kind of technical part of the requirements, and we just wanted to move on to what you can do with the product. So what we're going to do shortly is to follow this with a high-level demonstration, but the connector allows therefore and Business Central to exchange information seamlessly between the two products, which makes it much easier for the users and much more efficient so that it cuts down on their work. So we'll cover some use cases in the demonstration, but just to give you a very brief insight into what you can do. So you can retrieve documents from within Business Central that are stored in therefore. We can improve the security of the documentation. Of course, with therefore, as you would expect, we are looking to improve the customer's productivity. One thing we won't be covering today in any great detail is the capturing of outgoing business documents. And there's something that we're working on that will help Business Central customers in their credit chasing activities. But we'll cover that in another topic at a later date. And of course, we're managing finance documents, and we're not just talking about managing incoming and outgoing invoices. We can manage all sorts of finance documents and store them in the therefore repository. And as you would imagine with therefore, we make sure that we maintain a very tight audit trail so that the customer can achieve their compliance, and we automate all of their processes through using our workflow engine, which ultimately saves the customer time and money.
Great. All right. We did get a question. Should it be a named license instead of a current? And I would recommend that you only need to have a concurrent license point that's available because the connector only uses that license point very briefly when it's connecting to the therefore system, when it's either retrieving a document or sending a document for a few seconds. If you were to assign a named license point to the connector, the named license point would be underutilized because you're only consuming the license point for those few seconds when the connection is active, if that makes sense. So yeah, the best.
To add on this, the connector, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. The connector itself does not really does not really use the license. It's connecting without using a license. It's just the users that are using the license. So when a user does an operation like adding a document, that it briefly connects, like it was said, to add the document. But that's the user license anyway, so it does not really matter for the connector which is used.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Clemens. I knew it was only during like actively you're connecting to the Therefore system, but you don't need a separate connector, and you don't need a separate named or concurrent license just for the connector. It's really the users who are doing the operation and are consuming their concurrent license point. So very good clarification, but yeah, good value for money because it doesn't need a separate license, only the users do. Good. Then we have no more questions right now. And that very nicely and then brings us over to the next part, where we can talk about a high-level overview of what the connector does. So basically, since Business Central is an ERP system, it's for accountants, there is a bit of a feature gap in terms of the information management. And what the connector does is it allows you to utilize Therefore's stellar information management capabilities together with the connector. And by having the connector in place, you have good information flow between the two systems. And that basically avoids having to do double data entry. So as we go through the demo, think about it that way, how it's really improving the flow of information. And that's the most simple and succinct way that I can explain the functionalities of the connector. So first feature is that you can automatically save outgoing documents generated in Business Central to Therefore, which avoids the need to manually recreate those in Therefore for safekeeping, right? The next one is that you can drag and drop documents from Windows Explorer into Business Central and automatically save that said file to Therefore in the appropriate category. So as you see in the screenshot, you have Business Central open, and you have this really nice drag and drop space where you can just simply enter the document that you want to be associated with that, for example, customer file or that purchase order, whatever it may be. And that will, again, then be stored in Therefore. And it generates a hyperlink then that you can open for viewing. And like I mentioned, once you have saved the document in Therefore, a hyperlink is created, as you see here in the screenshot, and that allows the user to click on it, and the document is then opened for viewing in the Therefore viewer. In this screenshot here, it's being opened in the installed viewer, but you can also open it up in the web viewer, which is really convenient. So the documents are then saved in Therefore, but they can be opened for viewing from the interface in Business Central, which is really nice. And most interestingly, you have a two-way connection. So you can create a purchase in Therefore and send it to their Business Central for payment processing while maintaining the audit records, traceability, and workflow in Therefore. So you have the ability to really leverage Therefore's workflow for the payment approval. And then at the end, it can be sent to Business Central where it can be paid. And that is really nice. And we have the demo showing that exactly. Now, the really powerful thing about the Business Central connector is that we also have the power of REST. REST, of course, is a very popular, very common communication protocol that's used in many apps and software today. And it allows this connection to be further enhanced. So with REST, you can even augment these existing connections so that you can really personalize what the connector is doing for your business. And Clemens had shown us a technical demonstration of the types of REST calls that are possible, but even more is possible. I guess the thing that I really want to underscore is that when you go to talk with your customers, don't be surprised if they have questions, they have very specific processes that they want to do, information that they want to send. It is more than likely that possible with the Business Central because we do have the power of REST. One example is data synchronization. You can retrieve essential operational data from Business Central for use in Therefore particularly within the invoice approval workflow. So you can send the data, any type of data almost, such as purchase orders, vendors, general ledger accounts, dimension codes, and receipts to Therefore. Furthermore, you can go the other way. So you can post data from Therefore to Business Central, again, using the REST API, such as invoices, vendors, purchase orders, sales orders, any information that's in Therefore, the individual index data that you have can then be sent to Business Central and put in the appropriate spot within the Business Central ERP system. And finally, you can also create document links in Business Central, like we saw before, but we can go a step further than what the standard functions would be using REST. So in sum, it's really amazing. The sky's the limit, basically, in terms of the Business Central connection, because so many different functionalities can be achieved because of Business Central's excellent REST API. Good. I do have a question. Let me just see what it says. Is there an option to sync existing Business Central attachments to Therefore, those that are saved under the Attachments tab in Business Central? I would say it is, because I'm not sure. Maybe Clemens, you can type an answer if you have.
As far as I know, it's currently not possible. It's at least nothing that our connector can do. Maybe there is a way. If there is a way to do it with REST, then it might be possible, but straight with our connector, that is currently not possible.
Excellent. Thank you, Clemens. All right. So we've covered the most basic introduction to the connector. Now let's hand it over and look at a pre-recording that we've made. And I'll hand it over to Mark to do the brief introduction. Mark, you are muted.
Sorry, I was on mute for some reason. Within the demonstration, we're going to look at some of the typical scenarios that we encounter within the finance department. So checking invoices against orders to make sure that we're only paying for goods that we've ordered. Nominally coding or GL coding and adding cost centers to documents, and dragging and dropping documents into the Business Central interface. And as Jennifer explained, they are then ultimately stored in Therefore. I think we can run the demo.
Okay, so we've pre-recorded it, but for consistency and quality purposes. So let's give it a go. Let me just quickly.
Good morning. Today we're looking at how our Therefore connector for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central delivers real user benefits. We will look at the functionality that can be implemented, including drag and drop storage of documents, how the data fields are mapped between Therefore and Business Central. We'll also take a look at how Therefore Smart Capture intelligently extracts invoice details and feeds them into Business Central. The next area of interest is the real-time synchronization of purchase order data, which opens up options for two-way matching of invoice line items against PO line items. Our final two topics are to look at how the connector saves purchase invoices into Business Central, and then we'll finish up by showing you how easy it is to set up the connector. Let's start by looking at how easily documents can be saved into Business Central using drag and drop. First of all, we will go and find our supplier, Fabulous Cars. When we open their record, we can see the drop zone for documents in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Dropping a document saves the file into Therefore and creates a hyperlink in Business Central. When the user wants to retrieve the document, they simply click on the hyperlink and the document is displayed in Therefore. On closer inspection, we can see that the data has been synchronized in both systems. We're going to create a new purchase order to Fabulous Cars. After opening a new PO, we can add our items and adjust the order quantities and prices. When our order is complete, we select the printer option and the print dialog box appears and our document is saved into Therefore. The order is indexed with the data we entered into Business Central, making it easy to retrieve. And our system can be configured to automatically send the order to our supplier without any additional work. Our next topic should be of real interest to customers who are still keying the details from supplier invoices into their ERP system. In this case, we're using Therefore Smart Capture to extract the details we need from the invoice and save them into Business Central. In this demonstration, we're going to drag and drop a PDF invoice into Therefore. However, in a live environment, we usually capture invoices from the email system, but we can also import scanned files to make sure our customers can use multiple input sources. When the invoice has been uploaded, it is sent to the Smart Capture service, and this is where the magic really happens. Smart Capture reads the invoice, then takes the information we need, such as the supplier name, invoice number, and invoice values, and populates the fields on the left of our screen. Now these fields are matched up with the same items in Business Central. The accuracy of the data extraction is phenomenal, so we really don't need to do too much before posting the data into Business Central. But if there are a few minor discrepancies, we can deal with them immediately in the user interface. When we're finished, clicking the Confirm button releases the document into the system and moves on to the next invoice. We'll look at how to post the invoice data in one of the sections coming up shortly. Making sure that we're only invoiced for goods ordered at the price we agreed is important for the financial health of a business. So matching our order details to the supplier's invoice is really important. We're going to switch to the installed client of Therefore because this gives the accounts payable team more power to complete this process. When we retrieve the invoice from Fabulous Cars that we processed with Smart Capture earlier, we can open up the data entry screen and see the invoice header details on the left. Clicking on the Lines tab shows the invoice line items. The header and line item data is the information that was captured by Smart Capture. On the right of our screen, we can see the purchase order lines, and these have been synchronized from Business Central and are automatically matched to our invoice lines. We have just seen how purchase order details are presented in Therefore and can be matched to invoice lines. To demonstrate how quickly order details are synchronized, we're going to add a Ford alarm system to the order we created for Fabulous Cars. Now we've added a new line item, we're going to jump back into Therefore and run the order update process. The process immediately brings in the new order line and we can see that it isn't matched to the invoice. When we look at the invoice lines, we can see that there isn't a matching entry. I hope you will recall that we used Smart Capture to read the details from the fabulous cars invoice a few minutes ago. I would like to show you the workflow that's sitting behind this process that we use to post the details into Business Central and create the document link. You can see that we have options for the buyer and the AP team to review the document and data. And when they're both happy that everything is correct, we'll use a REST call to send the data to Business Central. For the user, this is extremely simple because they just need to click the Send to BC button to complete this step. If we go back to Business Central, we can open the entry for this invoice and see the data. We can also see the hyperlink, and we can use the hyperlink to retrieve the document, saving us a lot of time. This is our last section of the demonstration, and we're going to look at how easy it is to set up the Therefore connector. When we locate the setup screen, we can see the web service connection details. After entering the connection details, we can switch to the Mapping tab. In here, we can tick the areas we want to activate. If we drill down into the outgoing sales order or purchase invoice, we can see which fields from Business Central are linked to the corresponding field in Therefore. As you can see, it's very easy to map the fields. If we go up a level to the document type table, we can see which Therefore categories the documents will be saved into. I hope this brief presentation has demonstrated that Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central users can gain significant business benefits from using Therefore to automate invoice capture, checking, approval, and posting and document creation activities, alongside the other productivity gains achieved from having instant access to any finance document.
So thank you guys for watching our brief little video. I got some good feedback. I think it was really interesting for a lot of people to see how the connector works and some of the functionality. Now, keep in mind as you think about this demo was made to be very easy to understand, to highlight some common processes. It was knowing that we have a very international audience, we've tried to keep it very simple. But again, this is highly, highly customizable to fit your needs and to fit the way that the accounting processes are done in your country and in your business. So the hyperlinks are created. We did get a question from Paul about, can the file link inside Business Central be configured to show the invoice number or other index values instead of the file name? So the hyperlinks are created using the file names in the drop zone, and that cannot be configured. And when you're using the REST call, you can specify how the hyperlink should be named. So that is something that would be configured based on how it's configured. But once it is, it's not something that users would be able to configure every time, because again, they're just creating that, they're just dropping it, and that hyperlink is then created immediately. Good, we have a couple of other really technical questions here. So I think, to be honest, it would be best if Clemens, if we hand over to you, if you can see if there's any questions that you can answer.
Okay, well, there is the question if Therefore on-premise can be used together with Business Central Online hosted by Microsoft. And yes, this is possible. That is not a problem as long as our web API, which is running on-premise, is available from the outside, so that our Business Central connector can reach this web API. But if this is the case, then it's not a problem to mix on-premise with Business Central Online. and it also works the other way around. So if you have Business Central on premise and you have therefore online, that's also possible to mix those. So that's completely fine with mixing those. Yeah, the file name question you have answered already. Unfortunately, from the drop zone cannot be configured. Just for the ease of use, you just drag and drop it in, and there is no additional pop-up or anything to
Change
modify the file name. But I think it's a good idea. Maybe we can add in the future a way to rename it. It should not be that complicated. And yeah, from REST call, it's already possible to specify how the file name should be displayed.
Yeah.
But yeah, just by using our drop zone, it's currently not possible. There is also a question, how can existing Business Central documents be saved to therefore without having to use the print function inside of Business Central? I'm not 100% sure what you mean with existing BC documents. Is this regarding the question of documents in the attachment section? Because yeah, as I already mentioned, currently there is no way to get the attachments saved automatically to therefore. If it's just regarding invoices or something and not really about documents, we have to have some kind of report that we can save. So printing is an option, posting is an option, whatever you can do to create a report that we can save and therefore is sufficient, but we have to have some input file to save. We cannot just save an invoice without the file. So you either have to print it or you have to trigger some report creation. That's the important point. And our connector reacts on this report and saves the report to therefore along with configurable metadata coming from Business Central. Regarding smart capture, I'm afraid I cannot help since
I was thinking about this. The question is, can smart capture extract from multiple tabs in an Excel-based invoice to be posted to Business Central? So the question is, if you get an invoice that is on an Excel sheet, and in that case, actually, if you have an Excel sheet, you don't need smart capture. You can just use template profiles. So, and then you would get the Excel sheet, you would extract the data, and then you send the data from therefore to Business Central. I think that would be the easiest, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't think you would use smart capture to extract from an Excel spreadsheet.
No. So smart capture is really meant for non-structured documents where you want to have that automatic, the artificial intelligence extracting the information. So for Excel, you can use template profiles, which does not cost you any money. And you can really just get the automatic extraction because Excel is so structured and it's quite easy. Good. Then we had the one final question from Mark about to have a three-way check for the invoices. So what we had shown, we had a special configuration in the demo where on the left we had the information that's in therefore compared to the information that's in Business Central. And this question was, can we have a three-way check for the invoices that would be goods received instead of only two-way versus the PO? So I guess they want the purchase order, the good was received, and the invoice.
So that can be configured.
Yeah. It might be hard to visualize. And to have a category field, you'd have to have a giant category field with all that information on there.
Yeah, we have other configurations that deal with AP processes where we have goods receipting as well. It's just that in this particular configuration, we haven't presented that. Yeah.
So in that case, I think that would be a good demo or a good question to consult with our pre-sales team because they have a lot of experience in that situation. But great questions, guys. Thank you for answering and asking all these questions because they're all a very smart group of people. So thank you for that. Good. So having concluded now the demo, and we've got one more question here. Is the configuration for the demo available to download? No, not right now. the thing is, it's specific to our server, and so a lot of the reference data would just not work if we send you an XML. But we are planning on creating an e-learning course for Business Central, and that course will help you learn how to install and configure the connector. So I would recommend when we have that, we can help you out with that. And do please get in touch with our pre-sales team, Vitor in particular, if you have any questions, because I think that would be the best. Unfortunately, just sending you the XML, it's not going to work because of all the reference data. All right, so now that we've answered another question, Mark, I'm going to hand it back to you to talk about information for the resellers.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so up to this point in this this morning's presentation, we've covered off, the features and functionality of the connector and also the benefits to the customer. And now we just wanted to spend a few moments looking at the benefits to our resellers, our valued resellers, why they should be looking at promoting this connector. For me, I think one of the things that as a salesperson, we're always hungry for the next thing and the next thing. And often we forget that we have some really good stuff already available to us that can create very quick wins for sales. So when we look at the fact that Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central is the #1 ERP system globally for SME businesses with over 55,000 customers, and then there's still ranked number 15, the older Business Central connector with over 2,000 customers. You can see that there are lots of people out there using that application or that suite of applications. And then when we look at the way that Microsoft sell their products, it is pretty much identical to the way that we promote therefore. So our resellers are gaining revenue from license sales and professional services. And that's exactly the way that customers are consuming the Microsoft suite of products. So when you work with them, it's going to be no surprise in the way that you're positioning the product. Obviously, we've covered some of the benefits this morning that we can promote to them. For Microsoft resellers, if you are a Microsoft reseller or you're working with Microsoft resellers, there are some real benefits to them, because instead of being constrained to the finance department, we can add standard sort of therefore functionality to other areas of the business, allowing them to expand outside that finance team. And from the customer's point of view, of course, we can help them achieve better payment management and better management of incoming and outgoing documents that relate to their finance processes. So how do we detect an opportunity for this Business Central connector and therefore generally? So the obvious situation is that the customer's got both Business Central and therefore already, and that in discussion with them, we identify that they want to improve the flow of information between those two products and the storage of documents and information. Because maybe at the moment they're doing a lot of manual work of copying and pasting documents and application and data between the two systems. And of course, as soon as you start doing that, you're opening yourselves up to lots of errors. But equally, and I think we as a community need to do a lot more work around this, is to identify those 55,000 Business Central customers who maybe are not using Therefore already, and go and have a conversation with them about the benefits that we can bring to the table for them. I think that would be a really good strategy for all of the Therefore reseller channel.
Yeah.
So a couple of considerations. I'll pass back to Jennifer to go over these, and we'll conclude very shortly.
Great. So if you've identified a customer and you're looking for the next steps, first step is, of course, to really discover and validate the data, figure out what data do they want to send to Therefore or from Therefore to Business Central, and look in Business Central to make sure that you're really understanding what that data, what those is, and what category and what index fields that would correspond to, and therefore. Then you should also be aware that there is a Business Connector, Business Central API extension where you might need to have OData in order to achieve that. And finally, OAuth authentication. This is required in the BC Online version. OAuth is an additional configuration step that you need to take into consideration. But if you have any questions or any comments, again, reach out to presales@therefore.net. We have experts who are waiting to get all of your questions and answer them and make these configurations come to life. So the next steps for you, if you want to learn more, number one, we have a Business Central on our homepage, which is therefore.net/integration with Business Central. I have pulled it up here already so that you guys can see. We've got a really lovely page here where you can, again, review the information, watch some demo videos. And that is a really great spot to direct your customers or yourself in case you're interested in learning more about Business Central. And of course, if you want to hear more from us at Therefore, sign up for our newsletter so that you can be informed when we have new webinars coming, and look at our blog. And if you have any questions or comments, reach out to us at therefore.net or media@therefore.net as well. So guys, thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us this morning to learn more about Business Central. Round of applause to Mark and especially to Clemens for joining us. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I hope this was educational and interesting to you. So we got another question, very good question. Is Business Central the same as Dynamics 365? So yes, the connector works for all versions. The name is, the official name, if you look at it again, it is Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central with Therefore. So it's a mouthful. We've been just saying Business Central, and Dynamics 365 is like this umbrella. If you go onto the Microsoft homepage, they have a lot of different applications and softwares that are under this Dynamics umbrella, and Business Central happens to be the very specific ERP software. So it's a very, I think in my personal opinion, it's quite a confusing name, but I hope that we have kind of demystified what it is. Mark, do you have any closing comments?
I think you've explained that incredibly well, and yeah, I genuinely hope that what we've delivered this morning has piqued people's interests and helps them go out and find some new opportunities with something that we can deliver today. So yeah, it's not, we're not having to wait for this. It's readily available with a little bit of learning on behalf of the reseller. They can generate some really good revenue and get into a very good area of their customers' business, which they can expand from.
Wonderful, Mark. Well, in that case, I think we've said all there is to say. I look forward to hearing from you, and Mark, as well as our pre-sales team, are looking forward to getting questions and queries about new Business Central integrations. So guys, thank you so much once again. Have a wonderful day. And yeah, that concludes our webinar for all. So once again, see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.